Hey guys, how's it going? So, ever since I posted my Monsoon radio installation and removal videos, I've been getting a lot of questions about the Monsoon system itself and replacing speakers and head units and things like that. Well, um, particularly they've been asked about the Monsoon amp and where it's located, if it's required for a system, etc., etc. So here I'm looking at the trunk, the rear of my car, and I'll go ahead and hop in and I'll show you exactly where this thing is at. So it's kind of hard to see. I know there's some glare here. I actually have this light here I tried to pull out so that I could get a better shot, but essentially right here is the Monsoon amp. You'll see it sandwiched in between the 6x9s that are here, and this amp actually does more than just drive speakers. It actually drives the entire system, and it uses special dual speaker 6x9s. They're dual drivers. So essentially what you have is you have a 4-pin connector that goes to each one of these 6x9s here, which drives a tweeter and a woofer. 2 for the tweeter, 2 for the woofer. Now, I do have a wiring diagram for this, but basically, when you go to order new 6x9s, what you'll find is that the connector is not only different, but if you do manage to hack something together, you will also find that the new speakers just don't sound all that great. And the reason is because this amp actually drives each one of the speakers. And Monsoon advertises the system as being a 9-speaker system. You've got 2 here, you've got 2 here, and then you have another 5 in the front. You got 2 tweeters, 2 woofers for the doors, and you also have 1 dash speaker, so that gives you a total of 9. So it's a little bit confusing because many people want to upgrade their 6x9s and they find out, okay, well, there's a 4-pin connector here. What the hell is going on? Well, believe it or not, and this is, I've not tested this out myself, so I cannot vouch for this, but from what I hear, the stock 6x9s here actually sound better than any aftermarket speaker simply because of the way it's set up. Now, I've read people hacking up their setup so that they can get the same results, but it's a lower output. There's other problems that are involved with that. It's just not perfect. So in a nutshell, if you wanted to actually replace all of your speakers, you would either have to replace them with ones that have dual drivers with a 4-pin connector, or you'll have to gut the entire system out of your car and install something completely custom. Now, this has nothing to do with the head unit, okay? Because you can get an aftermarket head unit that will actually drive or send signal to the Monsoon amp, so you don't have to worry that you get a new head unit and this thing's not going to work. It's still going to send the signal, the frequencies, to the appropriate speakers, so don't worry about that. However, if you do get new speakers, at least for the rears, you have to pay close attention to what you actually get. Now, in the door speakers, you've got 2 tweeters and you have 2 woofers. So there's 2 pins going to the tweeters, 2 pins going to the woofers. So you could, in fact, replace the door speakers, at least the woofers, without a problem, but then you'd have to get the special, I believe they're 2-inch tweeters. I could be wrong. I'll have to look that up. But you'd have to make sure that you get one that's appropriate for the door speaker tweeters, okay? So many people have asked, can I just disconnect the Monsoon amp? Well, all of your speakers are driven through the Monsoon amp, which is back here. And from right here, it's a 300-watt amp. Sorry about the lighting and so on. It's just the glare coming from outside. You can see there, it's really glary. But so here's the connector on the end. I'll see if I can get a better angle here. Here's the connector on the end, and again, I'm sorry it's fuzzy and so on, but here's the connector on the end, and this actually drives all of the speakers. So the head unit itself sends the information to the amplifier, and then the amplifier sends the power out to all the speakers. So the amp is, in fact, required if you're going to drive the current setup that you have, which is the 9-speaker setup that they've got, the stock speakers. If you were to unplug this, you wouldn't get any power going to the speakers because you got the input and then you got the output. So without the output, obviously, you're not going to get any sound in your speakers. And one thing that does happen is this amp will either go bad or the fuse will go for it, and then the radio works, but there's no output. That's why, because the amp is actually required for this setup. So if you decide that you want to get rid of your amplifier, You can in fact wire in your own custom head unit with speakers, just like a non-Monsoon setup. So it's definitely possible to do that. However, for simplicity, it's actually better if you just keep the stock amp and just drive the speakers with an aftermarket head unit. If you wanted to add a subwoofer, unfortunately there's no aux output on this amp. There's no other inputs whatsoever. You've just got these connectors here for the speakers and the input. And so if you wanted to add a subwoofer to the system, either you're going to have to get an aftermarket head unit, or you're going to have to tie into the woofer portion of this connector here. You don't want to tie into the tweeter portion, the tweeter drivers. You want to tie into the woofer portion. And again, it's easy to follow where the wires are going to the woofers and then to the tweeters underneath here. So that's information that you should know before you go ahead and install a subwoofer, is you're going to have to patch into 2 of these wires in order to get signal to the amplifier. So hopefully that answers your question. You know, I'm getting a lot of people asking if I can just remove the Monsoon amplifier, what will happen, can I replace the speakers. Crutchfield and all the other websites have special speakers just for the Monsoon system because they are dual driver speakers. You can't just hook up any old 6x9s because they're just not going to work properly. The pin is different. You could hack the 2 together, but then you're getting some weird frequency issues. So that's just something to be aware of. So once again, try to get this glare off here. Oh man, this is horrible. Once again, here's the Monsoon amp. It is sandwiched in between the 2 6x9s, mounted to the top here. And yeah, so hopefully that answers any questions you might have. Take care.